Attorney Bianca Lamar for consideration.
All right, we're back to continue voir dire. It's about 8:55. The jury's back. I'm going to have the panel brought up to the courtroom. We'll continue voir dire. Obviously, as with yesterday, we're using pretty much the entire courtroom. So the matter is being live streamed at the moment, and that will continue until we complete voir dire. The defendant's here. He's in court. He's in street clothes. I'll let the state follow up with additional questions and the defense, just so everybody's on the same page. This jury's getting selected this morning so we can get moving in this trial. Let's have the jury brought in. Yes. But thank you for knowing. True. Yes, for the record, the live stream camera is on the court, meaning me only, so that no jurors are shown inadvertently. All right, the jury's coming in. You can remain seated. All right, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for coming back. And we're going to pick up where we left off with voir dire. The state has some additional questions. After the state is done with their questioning, the defense will have some questions. I fully expect, and I told the lawyers this, that we're going to select the jury this morning. Hopefully, I'd like to say in the next couple of hours, but certainly this morning. After the jury's selected, then this afternoon we'll start with opening statements and testimony and evidence. Mr. Gibner.
Can everyone hear me again? Okay, I'm seeing everybody. Yep.
Can you use the mic, though, Mr. Gibner?
Yeah, I'll move that microphone up. Apologize. I don't know how it got moved down. Apologize. So the last time we were here yesterday, we had talked a little bit about individuals that either themselves or a close family member or a close personal friend had ever been the victim of a homicide or a shooting or firearms related offense. I want to reverse that question. Is there anyone here, either themselves or a close personal friend or a family member, has ever been charged or has been the defendant in a homicide or a shooting or some sort of firearms or weapons offense? Please raise your hand. Okay, I see a few hands. I'm going to start off in the front row. You can put your hands down, and then I'm going to kind of walk through this one by one. Juror number 1, if I could ask you to go to the microphone, please. Ma'am, is it okay if I ask you a few questions about this?
Yes.
Who was it?
My father in second-degree manslaughter, and my older brother, first-degree homicide, and then another murder while he was in prison.
And I'm sorry, you said your father in 73, and then your was it
Oh,
your
no.
brother?
My brother, my father, that was in 2010. My brother, that was 2007. And then it was 2013.
I'm very sorry, ma'am, to have to talk about this. Were they in Milwaukee?
Yes.
So they were prosecuted by my office?
Yes.
Okay. Did you go to any of the court dates?
No.
Did you have any interactions or involvement with the DA's office, the police, your family's defense attorneys, the judge, anything along those lines?
No.
Did you come to any opinion about how those cases were handled that you think would affect you in listening to this case?
No. I was afraid of coming out.
You were
What,
kind
what
of...
was the answer?
No, I wasn't close to any of it. No,
Okay.
I was kept away from it.
And you've been kept away from, you were younger at the time, correct?
Yes, I was a
Okay.
minor.
I'm sorry?
I was a minor both times.
Okay. And do you think that there's anything about those experiences, and I'm so sorry you had to go through those, that would affect you in listening to this case at all?
No.
Thank you very much, juror number 1. I believe I saw one other hand. Is it juror number 6? Ma'am, is it okay if I ask you to take the stand? Up there at the microphone, please. Can I ask you some questions about this?
Sure.
Who was it?
My brother.
And what happened?
He was involved in like a shooting, kind of like back and forth between someone. No one died from it, but it was kind of like it was a back and forth thing, and he was on probation for it. Like, oh, well, he was on probation and did that. So now he's away.
How long ago did that happen?
2020.
So 2 years ago.
Well, it was
Year
like
and a half?
September of 2020.
Okay. And did you go to any of his court appearances?
No, me and my brother, we're not close whatsoever.
Is there anything about that experience you think would affect you in listening to this case?
I didn't find out about it until like October of 21. I knew nothing because me and him, we don't communicate, we don't talk, we don't nothing. So when I found out, it was through kind of like family kind of whispering about it.
Thank you very much, juror number 6. Sorry to bring that up. And anyone else in the front area, either themselves or a family member or a friend, has ever been charged with a homicide or a shooting or a gun-related offense? I see no hands. I believe I saw one hand over here. Yes, ma'am, if you wouldn't mind coming down. Ma'am, you're juror number 49.
Yes.
Is it okay if I ask you questions about this?
Sure.
Who was it?
My sister-in-law's grandson.
I'm sorry to talk about this. What happened?
He carjacked, shot a man, didn't get caught evidently, carjacked again, and she shot him, so he's paralyzed.
Was he charged in any of those offenses?
Oh yeah. It's a ring time.
And did that happen in Milwaukee?
Sure.
How long ago?
5 years maybe?
5 years ago? So again, prosecuted by my office? Is that again? Sorry, for the court reporter.
Yes.
And did you go to any of the court appearances?
No.
You said this was your sister-in-law's grandson, is that correct?
Yes.
Has she talked to you about that experience?
I watched the documentary that was done.
Okay. Did that documentary, do you think anything about that documentary or anything about this happening to someone that you know and are related to would affect you in listening to this case?
I don't think so.
Whatever happened there, like we've talked with everybody else, put it aside, base your decision only on the facts of this case.
Sure.
Thank you very much, juror number 49. Ladies and gentlemen, I kind of want to broaden the question a little bit here. Is there anybody here, just yourself? So I'm just asking about yourself, not family members or close personal friends. But is there anyone here, just yourself, who's ever been charged with a crime? Any crime. Possession, drunk driving, something along those lines. Okay, I do see a few hands. All right, and I'm gonna go one by one down the aisle. I didn't see anyone in the first row. I didn't see anyone in the second row. The third row, sir, if you wouldn't mind. Here's your number.
13.
Okay, and is it okay if I ask you about this?
Yep.
What was it?
It was sexual misconduct in high school.
Was that in Milwaukee?
No, Waukesha.
Is there anything about that experience you think would affect you in listening to this case?
No.
Anything about the DA, the defense attorney, the judge?
Nope.
Put it aside, base your decision only on the facts in this case?
Yep.
Thank you very much. Juror number 13. Anyone else in that third row? Okay. Okay, I did, juror number 6, you kind of raised your hand? Okay, if you want to go up to the microphone, it's fine.
My question would be, I was like charged with disorderly conduct like 14 years ago.
Okay.
It was just like a verbal altercation between me and someone, and I had to do community service and anger management.
Anything about, was that in Milwaukee? Yes,
Yes, it was.
that's for the court report. She
Yes.
yells at me if I don't get yeses and nos.
Yes.
Is there anything about that experience you think would affect you?
No, I was young.
Understood.
That's all. Wasn't thinking straight.
Thank you for bringing that up. Thank you very much, juror number 6. Sorry to bring that up. Anyone else in the first or 2 rows that I may have missed? Okay. Third row, anyone? I see no hands. Fourth row. Did I see a hand? Okay. Now, oh, I do see one hand. Yes, sir. If you could please come up to the microphone.
And number 19,
Yes, sir. Is it okay if I ask you some questions about this?
certainly.
What was it?
It was armed robbery when I was 16.
Was it in Milwaukee?
Yes.
Is there anything about that experience you think would affect you in listening to this case?
No, it was a case of mistaken identity, was let go after the first court appearance.
Okay, so it wasn't even you. Okay, thank you very much, sir. Yes. Anyone else? Okay, I do see in the back row. Yes, sir, if you could please come up.
Juror number 27.
27, yes, sir. Is it okay if I ask you about this?
Yes.
What was it?
Retail theft,
How long ago?
22 years ago.
Okay. And was it in Milwaukee?
No.
Anything about that experience? Judges, cops, defense attorney, anything you think would affect you in listening to this case?
No.
Thank you very much, sir. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Is that juror number 29?
Yes, juror number 29.
Is it what we already talked about yesterday?
Yes, that's it.
That's nothing else?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Anyone else in the front area? Okay, I see no hands. Anyone towards the side? I see no hands. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that we've kind of talked about throughout this is, obviously everyone has their own experiences. Everybody has their own things that make them who they are. And that helps guide how you look at things. But your decisions can't be based on something that happened in some other case. Your decision can only be based on what happens here. We don't determine cases based on what happened on another case, because then we just do one and then everything like that was just whether or not it follows the same thing. Is there anyone here that has a problem putting aside some other case that may have happened to you or to your family or to your friends, or you see about in the news, or maybe you read in a book or saw in a documentary? Whatever happened somewhere else doesn't matter. All that matters is whether or not the state proves its case here in this building regarding this incident with these witnesses. Does anyone have a problem with that? Yes, ma'am. If you come on down. Are you juror number 41?
I am, and I only raised my hand because of what I said yesterday, that I wasn't sure if I would be able to things that I need to be believed in from what happened to my
To your dad.
father. Yes,
Yeah.
so that's why I raised my hand.
Thank you so much for making sure we knew that. Nothing else about that. Just
Correct.
thank you so much, man. You can have a seat. I should have stopped you before you got all the way out there. Anyone else understand or just feel that, there may be just something else that, because something happened somewhere else, that's going to affect you and may cause you to view this case one way or the other. Everybody else is saying they have no problem basing this case only on these facts and these facts alone. Okay. Now, the court has asked previously whether or not anybody had any understanding or had ever heard about the case, and 6 people raised their hands. And I know what we did was you were read the information, you were told the date and the place and the names. But just to provide a little bit more context, this is something that happens on Holton and Brady. The victim was an immigration attorney, and it was an incident in which he dies. Just with that little bit more, is there anyone else that, beyond the 6 that we've already got their numbers, anyone else that now kind of remembers hearing something about this case? Okay, I see a few more hands. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with who we have here, and then we're going to kind of go through. So kind of starting in the front, sir, if you wouldn't mind going to take the podium. Your juror number, sir?
35?
Okay. You had not raised your hand yesterday, right?
Yeah, it didn't ring a bell yesterday, but the Holton and Brady, I live right around that area, so I remember that.
Okay.
Happening.
In regards to this incident, have you heard about it recently or back then?
Back then.
Back then, okay. And was it from the news?
Yeah, like Facebook or something.
Facebook, okay. And I'm not trying to say anything about the media or the news, or definitely not Facebook, but they don't always get things right? You understand your verdict cannot be based on whatever you may have heard back when this happened. Okay. Whatever had happened, if you heard something or saw something on Facebook and it's different than what you hear on the stand, this is what matters. You understand?
Yes, I understand.
Your decision can't be based on anything else, just on what you hear on the stand. Do you have any problem with that?
No.
Do you think anything you may have kind of had in the memory from seeing it on Facebook would affect you in listening to this case?
No.
If the judge tells you it's only based on the witnesses and the evidence, you could do that.
Yes.
Thank you very much, juror number 35. I think I saw another hand. Yes, sir. If you could go up to the microphone. Your juror number?
32.
32. You also didn't raise your hand yesterday, but this kind of jogged your memory a little bit?
Correct. When you threw in Brady Street, an immigration attorney, I'm pretty sure I went to high school with the gentleman who is deceased.
And do you remember it from the news?
I do not.
Okay, so you think you may have gone to high school with him?
I do. I remember when it happened, one of my friends said that someone from our high school was involved in an incident. He was an immigration attorney. I vaguely recall the name. I don't even know his last name, but I remember kind of knowing him, but never speaking to him and never saw him after high school.
Okay. Anything about that you think would affect you in listening to this case?
No.
Anything about what you may have heard about those facts, whatever it is, put it aside, base your decision only on the facts in this case?
Correct.
Thank you very much, juror number 32. Okay, so I believe I saw another hand over here. Yes, ma'am, juror number 49. You didn't raise your hand yesterday, correct? Or no, you did actually.
I did.
You did. Okay, so your knowledge of this incident, where did you get it from?
On TV, and I Googled it
You Googled it? When did you Google it?
a couple days ago.
A couple days ago? Okay. And So your knowledge of it is not from when it happened, but from kind of more recent stories?
Sure.
Okay. What made you Google it?
I couldn't get the names, who was who,
Okay,
so I Googled it.
okay. And did you read a lot of stories on it? Okay. Do you think, understanding that whatever you may have gotten from Google or from the internet or from the news, they may have it right, they may not have it right, doesn't matter. Your decision can only be based on what we see here.
Yeah.
That people that are putting stuff out there oftentimes have their own agendas, and they're trying to shape whatever they want. And what we're here about is the truth, not agendas and not causes or anything like that. We're here about the truth. Put whatever that is aside, realize your job as a juror is to search for the truth. Could you do that? Thank you very much, juror number 49. Anyone else on this side? Okay. I see no hands there. Now, I'm going to kind of row by row. It's the easiest way for everybody. Juror number 1, I saw you raise your hand. You did not raise your hand yesterday, right?
No.
Okay, and then provided a few more details and kind of jogged your memory?
Yes.
Okay. Your memory, is it from more recent, or your knowledge of it, is it more recent or from back when it happened?
Both.
Both, okay. And how did you learn about it?
I did not watch the news. I did not read any newspapers. However, my coworkers were keeping up with it, and I would hear them talk about it. If I am correct, the deceased employment may be connected to mine.
Oh, okay. So you think that his job as an immigration attorney may have somehow interact with your employment?
Correct.
Okay. Do you think that would affect you in any way?
No.
Okay. Put that aside, base the facts only on what you hear from the stand.
Yes.
And then you stated you overheard people talking about it, kind of what we've said before. News, media, people on the internet, all of them have their agendas. We're here about the truth, and then you're actually hearing it secondhand. So you're hearing people hearing what other people are trying to put out there, and then they're talking about their reactions to it.
Yes.
Which is like even further far from what we're trying to do here today.
Yes. I wasn't following the story at all for myself.
Okay. Thank you for telling us about that. Thank you very much, juror number 1. Anyone else in the front row I may have missed? Okay. Second row? I see one hand. Yes, ma'am. If you could take the microphone. You're juror number 12?
Correct.
It's up. Yours is one of the chairs that the numbers are correct with it. So when we get here, they're a little off. Juror number 12, you did not raise your hand yesterday, correct?
No, I did not recognize the name.
Okay.
When you gave more details this morning, I did recognize it. So I do recall seeing the news headline when it happened,
Okay.
and maybe a news broadcast about it once or twice, but I haven't seen anything recently.
Okay. So it was all back when it happened.
Yeah.
And again, even when it happened, the news is, they're just trying to get a story. We're not here for that. We're not here for whatever they're trying to do. This is about the truth. So if you heard something on the news and it's, conflicts with what evidence comes in through the stand, evidence is what you base your decision on. Okay. Thank you very much, juror number 12. Actually, juror number 12, I have a follow-up question. I'm going to get off the subject, but rather than have you come up twice, since I got you up there.
Yeah.
You are a master's student, correct?
Correct. Yep.
In what field?
I am getting a master brewer certificate. So brewing beer.
Is it in brewing?
Yes. Yeah.
Brewing.
Beer, alcohol.
Beer.
Beer.
I think you just became immediately more popular with everybody in the jury.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much, man.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's also the coolest master's degree I've ever heard. Now, anyone else in that second row? Okay, going to the third row. Yes, sir? Your juror number 16?
I just recall hearing something on the news and maybe the last week that jury was going to be picked for this case.
Anything about what you heard will affect you? No. Thank you very much, juror number 16. Anyone else in that room? Yes, sir. All right, got two here. Yes, sir. If you could come up.
14.
Yes, sir.
I just watch ABC News every morning while I work, so I've seen them run the headline that the trial's coming up and basic facts about it, the motor grain liver shot video, etc.
Okay. So you just gave them a plug, so that's good. Now,
Let me step on your toes for a minute, Mr. Huebner. I appreciate everybody being candid. I appreciate everybody being honest about this. Obviously, it's important to us picking a fair and impartial jury. And I'm not picking on you, Juror 14, but you just used the phrase facts. I'll be honest, Mr. Huebner didn't want to say it. Very often the media does not get things correct. Very often the media puts things out there that are facts that aren't. So anything you may have seen on
Basic details.
even the details, that there's nothing about what anyone's seen in the media, on TV, on Facebook, on Google, Twitter, whatever. None of those things are facts. Some of them might be outright falsehoods. Some of them might not be. But as Mr. Huebner's pointed out, and I'm sure both sides will agree, everyone that's seated in this jury needs to listen to the facts. The facts are what comes out during the trial. Witnesses, testimony, evidence, photographs, etc. Nothing from the media is a fact. You see where I'm coming from?
I agree.
Okay. Go ahead. Sorry, Mr. Huebner.
whatever you may have seen, realize can't base your decision on it. Doesn't matter. People have agendas, things like that. What matters is what comes in through that stand.
Agreed.
Could you do that for us, sir?
Yep.
Thank you very much. Sir, juror number 15, I could figure that out because you're right next to 14.
Yeah.
When you also did not raise your hand yesterday, right?
That's correct.
So a couple more facts kind of jogged your memory. How did you learn about this?
I recall hearing about it on the news, and then also in my job as a therapist and group substance abuse counselor. One of my clients had also mentioned hearing about that when we're talking about trauma. That kind of jogged my memory about that.
Okay. And was that recent or back when it happened?
I believe it was around the time that it happened.
Okay. Anything about that do you think would affect you in listening to this case?
No.
Whatever it is, put it aside, forget about it. Doesn't matter, can't affect your decision. Facts, evidence, witnesses, that's all that matters.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Anybody else in that row I may have missed? Okay, second to last row. I see two hands. Start with you, sir. On the left, my left, your right.
Number 20. I also heard it on the news that the trial was going to be this week.
Okay. And did you hear anything about the incident when it happened?
Not that I can remember.
Okay. Have you been following the news case at all, or news stories about it at all?
No.
Other than the fact that the trial is happening, do you know, like, any of them, did you hear any of the other, like, news stories, just that the trial was going to happen today?
Just the trial that was going to happen.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Ma'am, I believe I saw your hand up, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm 23.
Okay. You, just want to be clear, you also didn't raise your hand, right?
Correct.
Okay. Juror number 23 gave you a couple more facts, jogged your memory, right?
Right. It's on Brady Street and involved in the attorney.
And how did you kind of learn about this case?
It's from the news story back when it happened.
Okay. Have you been following any of the more recent stuff?
No.
You're also an attorney?
Yeah.
had you heard of him or know him or anything along those lines, the victim?
I did not, but I remember a conversation with my husband, and I'm not positive if he knew of him or knew him when we were watching the news story. I think he maybe knew of him.
Other than that first news story when it happened and maybe your husband knew of him, has there been any further conversations or anything else about that case?
No.
Do you think the simple fact that your husband may have met the guy would affect you in any way?
No.
Put it aside, base your decision only on whether or not I prove my case?
Yeah.
Because that's the burden. It's on me.
I understand. Yes.
Thank you very much, ma'am. While I'm in the 23 area, juror number 25? Yes, you raised your hand yesterday, correct? Thank you. How did you learn about the case?
I knew about the case back when it happened. I lived on Brady Street, and then during that time was also moving over into Brewers Hill, so it's right in that area.
You're moving out of the area?
I was moving from Brady Street to Brewers Hill, so it's kind of sandwiched between the two.
Yeah, I guess it is, yeah. And have you said you Googled it then. Did you read the news stories?
I hadn't Googled it. I had actually seen the news crews there when it had happened. It was kind of a talk of the neighborhood when it had first gone down. I did follow some news stories after the incident, and then also more recently knew that the jury was being picked for the trial.
Now, again, talk to the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
They may not have any of the details right. You don't understand that? The news also probably doesn't have any of the details right. People with agendas are talking to them.
Sure.
Understand, put all of that aside, base your decision only on the facts and the evidence.
Absolutely. I did have one more interaction. More recently, I believe a couple of weeks ago, there were some protests going on that corner for the defendant, and I did have interaction with a young gentleman who was in that group.
Okay. Do you think that would affect you in any way?
No.
Thank you very much.
What was her number again?
25. And juror 27, I believe you raised your hand as well, didn't you?
Yes.
So I've had you up here like twice. I should have just asked the question.
Completely fine.
How did you know about the case?
All I heard was last week that this week, the court case was going to be starting. That's all I heard just on the news last week.
Did you know anything about the case before you even found out the case was starting?
No.
Anything about what you heard you think would affect you?
No.
Put it aside, base your decision only on whether or not I prove my case?
Correct.
Thank you very much, juror number 27. Anyone else in the front that I may have missed? Okay, I see no hands. I believe, is there anyone here that I may have missed? I think juror number 40. Did you raise your hand yesterday? Sir, if you could come on down.
Juror 40
And how did you learn about the case?
from the journal sample.
Okay. And was it more recently or back when it happened?
I think both. I think there's been more than one article on it.
Okay. And do you think anything you may have read in those pieces would affect you in any way?
No.
Understanding that they have a lot of things in there, they may not have them right. There may be stuff in there that have nothing to do with this case. Nothing of that can come into your decision making. Only the facts and the evidence we put on.
Correct.
All right. Thank you very much, juror number 40. And I think I saw, if I'm not mistaken, juror number 46. Did you also raise your hand yesterday? Okay, thank you.
Juror 46, I read in the paper at the time didn't mean a whole lot. And then I did also see the news clipping on TV about the jury selection coming up.
Is there anything about what you read back then or what you may have seen in the news recently you think would affect you in listening to this case?
No.
Whatever it is, if it disagrees with something that you hear on the stand, they got it wrong. This is the evidence you base your decision on. Could you do that?
Yes, I can.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay.
Anyone else I may have missed regarding this? Okay, I see no hands. Now, ladies and gentlemen, is there anyone here that has gone through a CCW weapons class? You can please raise your hand. Okay, I see a few hands. We don't need to ask any more questions. You can put your hands down. Is there anyone else, either through a CCW weapons class or maybe through college or law school or something, has ever received any training regarding self-defense or, more importantly, the use of deadly force? Has anyone ever received anything along those lines? Okay, I see a few more hands. Now, here's my question. Whatever you may have gotten in those classes or in those trainings or whatever it is, that is not the law. The law is what Judge Borowski tells you. Judge Borowski will tell you the law, whether or not it applies in this case or not. That is how this case is going to be decided. Every single law that will affect how you are to make your decision making comes from one place, from Judge Borowski. So here becomes my question. Does everyone understand that whether or not it was at a class or at a training or at a lecture or just talking to your friends or what you read on the internet, if that disagrees with the law the judge gives you, that's wrong. This is what your decision making has to be on, because that is going to be the law of the land. That is the law of Wisconsin, and you will be directed on it. Does anyone have a problem with that? Does anyone have a problem being like, well, I understand the judge says that's how the law works, but in my class, they told me this, and I think that's appropriate. Everybody understand that's not the way this works. The law, as it applies to self-defense, the law as it applies to everything in this case comes from one place and one place only, the judge. Does anyone have an issue with that? Okay, I see no hands. Ladies and gentlemen, we've said it a few times here. Beyond a reasonable doubt. It is the highest burden in the land. It is the highest burden in the law. It applies to criminal cases, and that's it. Does anybody sit there and think, damn, man, it's a homicide? You know, I'm not gonna hold to the highest burden. I mean, someone's dead. Does anybody think that? I see no hands. Good, because you can't. In this state, in this country, beyond a reasonable doubt is what I am held to. You must hold me to it. That is the law. There cannot be anything other than what the law dictates. Now, ladies and gentlemen, regarding beyond a reasonable doubt, I told you I'm Grant Huebner. Judge told you I'm Grant Huebner. Does that prove it? I mean, maybe not, right? Could have a driver's license that's fake. Maybe I show you my driver's license. Maybe that's fake. Okay, so what if I show you my courthouse ID? Or I show you my birth certificate? Well, those could be fake too, right? Maybe. Maybe I have a twin brother. Maybe I'm actually Fred Huebner pretending to be Grant Huebner. Maybe I'm Anthony Edwards. If you're old like me, you've seen ER, Dr. Green, maybe I'm that guy. Maybe I'm a clone. Ladies and gentlemen, the judge will give you the law. And the law will tell you this. You are to search for the truth. You are not to search for doubt. You're not to speculate. You're not to spitball. You're not to say, well, this happened on Matlock, to give another dated reference. You're not to do that. You are to base your decision on the evidence and the evidence alone. There's no evidence that documents were fake. There's no evidence I'm a semi-famous actor from the 90s or that cloning even exists. You're to base your decision on the facts and the evidence alone, using your common sense. Does anyone have a problem doing that? I see no hands. I do have a few follow-up questions for a number of you here. Juror number one, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to bring you up. I had you up there twice. I should have done this earlier. I do apologize. What exactly is your employment again?
I work in financial services.
Financial services? All right, thank you very much. Sorry about that. Juror number 5. You're a dental hygienist, correct?
I used to be.
You used to be. And you're married, correct?
Correct.
All right, and I just probably missed it in my notes. What is your spouse's employment?
He works for the city. He's a designer.
He's a what?
A designer.
A designer. Okay. Thank you very much. What does he design?
He's a mechanical design.
Mechanical? Thank you very much. Juror number 21. I missed your employment, sir.
I am an ecologist. My full title is Director of Conservation.
Oh, cool. Where?
Fifth Audubon Nature Center.
Okay. The Nature Center, correct?
Yes, Fifth Audubon Nature Center.
And then I want to make sure I have this correct. Your spouse is in communications?
Yes.
Thank you so much, juror number 21. Juror number 32, or juror number 23. Sorry, I had you up there earlier. Have you ever done any criminal law?
No.
Has your husband ever done any criminal law?
Yes.
And on what side?
I think he was prosecutor for the law enforcement.
Oh, is the city attorney's office?
City attorney, yeah. I think early on.
That wasn't the selling point in the relationship? Oh, I get that. My wife agrees on that one. Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. Juror number 32.
Juror 32.
You're also a lawyer. Have you ever, if we're a lawyer, you're now a legal headhunter, is that correct?
Correct.
You have any experience with criminal law?
No.
And any pro bono work in the legal fields at all?
No.
Any interactions as the legal headhunter with defense firms or prosecutors' offices?
No. Occasionally, our search firm will represent, for example, federal attorneys who we're looking to get in the private practice.
Okay, but other than that, that's about it.
Correct.
Thank you very much, juror number 32. Ladies and gentlemen, we have talked about a number of different reasons why people cannot be on this jury, are unable to be on this jury. Is there anybody here that has some sort of physical or medical condition that potentially wouldn't allow you to sit and listen to people for, let's say, 2 hours? About every 2 hours we take a break. Is there anybody that would have something that would prevent them from being able to do that? Okay, I do see one hand, 2 hands. Ma'am, if you could please come up and, you're juror number 8, is that correct?
Yes, juror number 8.
Is it okay if I ask you questions about this?
Yes.
What's going on?
I have issues with my tailbone, so I can't sit for long periods of time.
And if you needed to, like if you needed to stand, first of all, in a jury box, they're better than those benches, so it'll be better. But if you needed to, if you raise your hand, stand up, would that probably make that better?
I would be able to do that, stand?
Yes, you could stand.
Okay, so yeah, I guess that would be
Okay.
doable. I mean, it flares up, it's hard to say. I can't control.
Understood. Thank you very much, turn number 8. And I thought I saw one more hand. Yes, sir. Is it okay if I ask you about this?
Yes.
What's going on?
I just don't hear so hot, so I need to be closer, if possible, to, read lips and listen.
To listen?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Anyone else I may have missed? Okay, I've seen, yes? And are you juror number 30? Is it okay if I ask you about this? What's going on?
I have chronic headaches, daily headaches, and I just started any medication that one of the side effects is causing.
And if you started to feel that, have you been feeling drowsy during this period?
Yes.
Okay. If you started to feel drowsy, understood, you could like raise your hand, we could maybe take a break for you. Would you be willing to do that for us?
Yes.
Thank you very much, juror number 30. Anyone else I may have missed? Okay, I see no hands. Now, we've talked about why reasons that people cannot be on this jury or are unable to be on this jury. Is there anybody who's sitting there right now thinking that you really want to be on this jury? Please raise your hand. Thank you. I have no further questions.
There were no hands to that last question, but all right, I'll turn it over to the defense.
All right, thank you. Good morning again, ladies and gentlemen. Just want to make sure I cover both sides of the room. Thanks for showing up today again. And I just have some more questions for you to follow up as well. Everyone okay with me taking my mask off? Is that okay?
Fine, yes.
So, as you heard, this case is a homicide case. And what's going to be at issue is whether this case was in self-defense, whether Mr. Edgecomb was legally justified in the actions he took that night, September 22nd, 2020. And this, as you heard, occurred on Brady Street and Holton Street, and some of you are familiar with that area. But I'm going to tell you one thing right now about this case. You're also going to hear in this case that Mr. Edgecomb fled from the scene and also left the state and was arrested in the state of Kentucky about 6 months later. I believe it was March of 2021. So that leads to my first question. Does anyone here, or who here, would agree with the statement that only guilty people run from the police? Okay, see a couple hands. Juror number 34. And I saw another hand, juror number 41. Anybody else? Yes. Number 6. Okay, so juror number 34, just wanted to ask you a question about that. So basically, the question was, do you feel that only guilty people run, or, and asked another way, if he's running, he's got something to hide, or he's probably guilty? Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. Why do you feel that way?
If you trust the process and you didn't think that you were guilty, why run?
Okay. Appreciate that. Thank you. Juror number 41. Yeah, same question. If somebody runs from the scene, does that necessarily show something?
In my opinion, yes.
Okay. Do you have anything, or any particular reason why?
I guess growing up as a child of a cop,
Okay.
you hear stories and get a little bit of a slanted view, if you would say, on things, I've been told.
Okay. And my question is, you know, we've already told you in this case, you're going to hear that, right? So knowing that he did flee from the scene, that he was found 6 months later, and there'll be more evidence that you'll hear about some of the reasons as to that, but knowing that right now, do you feel that Mr. Edgecomb is guilty of the offense?
Without hearing anything about it, that's what I would feel, yes.
Okay. So it's going to be pretty difficult for you to go through this case, just knowing that from the start, you know, we're kind of behind, right?
Yes.
Okay.
If I'm going to be truthful, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And I believe, was it juror number 6? Yes.
Juror number 6.
Yeah, thank you. So same question, right? Do you feel very strongly, knowing that this is in fact what you're going to hear in this case, that, you know, it'd be difficult for you to be fair to Mr. Edgecomb, knowing that?
I don't believe it would be difficult for me to, you know, be fair. I just believe if you didn't do anything, why run? You could stand there, face it, and just deal with it. That's just how I feel. I don't feel like it would interfere with anything because I'm always open to hear the actual facts.
Okay.
It's questionable.
Okay, thank you for sharing.
You're very welcome.
One question I forgot to ask you, juror number 34, just really quickly. Yes, sorry about that. And I'd ask this to juror number 41, right? Knowing that you're going to hear this in the case, that Mr. Edgecomb fled, do you feel like it's going to be difficult for you to give a fair, you know, to be fair to both sides here, particularly to Mr. Edgecomb, knowing that?
No, I would have to listen to the facts.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Welcome.
All right. Now, most people didn't raise their hands, so my question is, for the people that didn't, do you feel that, are there any other reasons that you could name of why someone may run? Okay, I see some head nods. Anybody can come up with some reasons? Okay, sir, in the back, I see a hand, or just 1 second. Okay, if you could keep your hands raised, just so I can get your numbers. All right, juror number 6. Juror number 11, thank you. Juror number 17. Juror in the back. 29. I see 2 hands there. Oh, I see 4 hands here. Okay, right in the front. Number 3. We have also juror number 9. Juror number 14. In the back, is it juror 19? Okay, thank you. And then I do see one more hand, is juror number, so 1. Okay. Juror number 42. Sir, I see 2 more hands. Okay. And you're 3 hands. Okay. 43, 40, sorry, 37, and finally, let's see. 37 and 47, right? Okay. Okay. All right. Well, juror number 6, we can start numerically. The question was, are there other reasons that somebody may flee?
Definitely.
Okay.
It could be fear. Fear that they won't be believed with them telling their story. It could be just not trusting the judicial system and feeling like them speaking their truth, it won't be believed anyway, so they rather just get away from it.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you.
Very welcome.
Juror number 11.
Number 11. I'm a middle school teacher, so I see some weird situations with kids, and I just know that sometimes, like, they're scared. They don't know if they'll be believed or if they're protecting somebody else. So I think you have to get down to the bottom of it and see both sides and the truth.
Okay, all right, appreciate that. Thank you very much. Number 17.
Juror 17. I think sometimes if you've had a bad interaction with the police, you're very fearful of how you'll be treated and if you'll be believed.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone have any other reasons? Because I know a lot of you raised your hands. Any other reasons? The people that did raise their hands, okay, we have juror number 3.
Juror number 3, it could be fear, it could be an emergency. We don't know what was going on in a person's family to determine that this gentleman would be guilty.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anybody else have some different reasons? Yes, sir. I see juror number, I see 2 hands. I guess, sir, we can start with you and then we'll get to you, sir. Juror number 29.
My reasoning is along the same lines, but I was on the fence with the previous question. Initially running from the scene, I would say it would have to be fear. Then staying away, that's where the question would come in. Or why would you stay away? Initially fleeing the scene doesn't matter like how old, how big, how hardcore the person might be. There's definitely fear involved in a scene like that.
Okay. So basically what you're saying is fleeing the scene is not a big deal to you, but maybe how much time elapses.
Right. I wouldn't say it's not a big deal, but it's understandable.
Okay, thanks for sharing. And finally, juror number 15.
I think some of the reasons also could be if you were maybe found guilty of something beforehand, and so you have like a negative association with the judicial system. Also, some other kind of factors could be if you've been under the influence of substances. I've seen that a lot with some of my own clients who have kind of made decisions that they would have changed if it had been a different circumstance or if they had been in the right mind to have made a different decision.
And you said, sir, you're a social worker, substance abuse counselor?
Yes.
Okay, so you've kind of seen some of those behaviors in some of your patients?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. Now, of the folks that did raise their hands with some of those other reasons, did you have like a personal, I know juror number 15 told us about some of his experiences generally with people that he may treat or help. Anybody have like a loved one or someone that they knew personally that did run from a situation? Okay, juror number, I see juror number 6. Anybody else? Okay, juror number 47 and 46. All right, juror number 46. We'll come back to you, man. With both sides of the room a little bit of a mix.
.46, and it was a cousin that was stopped for speeding, and instead of stopping, he just sped quicker, and it was out of fear.
Okay, so
But ended up in double trouble. So.
from fleeing from the police. Okay. All
But
right,
it was,
thank you.
it was total fear. So.
Okay, number 47.
It's not anyone like close to me in my personal life. There's a lot of the kids that I work with commit crimes and run.
And I believe you're a social worker, right?
Yes.
So you've kind of seen that experience within your own, I guess, in some of your patients, is that what you call, or your clients?
Clients, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
I do got to move on to the next topic just for time's sake, but I want to talk to you a little bit, just a couple of follow-up questions about the publicity in this case. Obviously, the media's been involved in this case. I think maybe a dozen or so of you have heard about this case. So I had a couple of follow-up questions. And I'm not trying to single anybody out, but just something that we needed to ask. Juror number 25, just a question for you.
Juror 25.
Yeah, so juror 25, I believe you said that you have heard about this case somewhat throughout its maybe the past year or so. Is that right?
Back in September of 2020, I did know about the case pretty much the day that it happened, and then had been following it, and then recently had been brought back to like the collection.
Okay, and you lived in that neighborhood, right?
I did, yes.
Bolton Street.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And was that on Brady Street or?
It was on the corner of Brady and Holton. I think it was technically on Holton, but that was just a few feet off of Brady Street.
Okay. So there are some apartments that are, or I think they're apartments. There's a building, and it's kind of on the right side of Holton. Are you referring to just that general region?
As far as where it happened?
No. He's asking, I think, where did you live?
Oh, I was
not an exact address.
Sure. I was more east of the area. I was down Brady Street, probably about halfway down Brady, around like the High Hat Garage area.
Okay. And you had mentioned that there were some protests recently in the past couple weeks, I'm guessing?
Yes.
Okay, and then you had an interaction.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. My fiance and I had gone out to dinner on Brady Street, and we were walking back home to Brewers Hill, so we do head west on Brady Street, and then we would have been turning north down Holton to head over to Brewers Hill, and as we turned that corner, one of the protesters attempted to trip my fiance.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing about that. Juror number 25 had actually one more follow-up question because you mentioned you're familiar with Brady Street, actually, so it's a little bit of a different topic. Right, so you're familiar with that general region of Holton, and then there's a staircase that goes down, is that right?
Yes, there is.
Have there been some sort of lighting problems with that area?
Not that I'm aware of. There is a bus stop right there, and that corner seems to be pretty well lit. Back in September of 2020, though, I can't recollect if there would have been a lighting issue then.
Okay, thank you. Juror number 35, just one follow-up question since you mentioned Brady Street.
Juror 35?
Yeah, so you also live in that area. Do you still live there?
Yes.
Okay. Now, with regards to Brady Street, have you seen any of the, have you had a chance to, I guess, besides just seeing it on the news or hearing about it, seeing it within your neighborhood?
Sorry.
Like hearing about this case, I mean, sorry.
Oh, no. The only place I heard about it was on Facebook, and I saw the intersection and was like, oh, that's right over down the road.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Now, you heard from Attorney Huebner. We had a hand raised. Sure, Judge, maybe this is a time to take a short 5-minute break.
No, we can take a short 5 minutes and let deputies show everybody out. Brief 5 or 10 minute break just for the bathroom and other things. Everybody else can remain seated. Follow my bailiffs out. No discussing the case. All right, you guys can all follow the bailiffs out. 10 minutes. Please. All right, 10-minute recess. All right, we're gonna go back in the record. We'll bring the jury back in. I had a conversation with the lawyers. I do not need to make a record on this right now, but both sides, based on my off-the-record conversation, are stipulating to excusing juror number 39, correct? That's the one we talked about.
That is correct.
The state stipulating. All right, so juror 39 is excused. It leaves us with 49 jurors, which is plenty. The defense advised me they have not too much more. Is that fair? All right. All right, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. All right, I'll have the jury come in. We'll try to finish up with voir dire soon and get the jury picked. Everybody can remain seated while the jury's coming in, please. All right, the jury's back. The defense can continue, please.
Okay, thank you. All right, hopefully that helped. Now, as far as the break goes, I did have a few more questions to ask. So you've heard from Attorney Huebner in the court that the state has to prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt. And we've told you this is a self-defense case. And so the question is going to be, has the state proven that there was no self-defense in this case beyond a reasonable doubt? But no, we haven't really talked about what that is. So who here, by show of hands, has heard the phrase beyond a reasonable doubt? Pretty much everybody, right? Anyone care to share what in your mind, what that means to you? You'll be given instruction on that, but just was wondering if anyone, what is that in terms of, you'll be given the instruction on that. Just wanted to get an idea from people that they've heard the term. Sure, juror number. Sure, yeah.
So number 11, you just know without a doubt that what is being said is true.
That's basically it. You'll be given instruction that there can't be any possibility of any reasonable doubt. Okay, thank you.
Right, let's not belabor this. Beyond a reasonable doubt does not mean no doubt. It means exactly what it says. Beyond a reasonable doubt. And you guys, as both sides have said, if you're seated, if you're one of the jurors, will get jury instructions. That's the law from me. You'll get it at the start of the case, meaning either later this morning or right after lunch, and you'll get it at the end of the case. Go ahead, counsel.
So as I said, it's a self-defense case, and the state still has that burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that there just is no self-defense in this case. Now, some of you are aware of what this case is. I think somebody mentioned that there's a video in this case as well. Does anyone feel that that requirement that the state has to prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt is just too unfair to the prosecution? That they shouldn't have to have such a high burden of self-defense case because that's something that defendant has to prove. Okay, I see no hands. So while the defense in this case is not required to prove anything, we will be showing you in this case that there is more than a reasonable doubt in self-defense. And does anyone have a problem with allowing us the opportunity to show you that there is self-defense? Yes, sir. Juror number.
I just have a question. Is there only one charge here and that's it? Is it first degree intentional and that's it?
That's correct, yes.
So is there any chance of that changing?
Okay, we're not discussing any of that.
Okay.
We're not discussing that at this stage. There's one charge.
Juror 16, was there anything else though that you, okay. Okay, thank you. So on the topic of self-defense, would anyone disagree with the statement? If a person believes their life is being threatened, the person has the right to act in self-defense. I see no hands. That's an easy one. I'm sorry, go ahead, man.
Okay, hang on.
Juror number. Yeah, if you could.
Number 3.
Right, so the question was, would anyone disagree with this statement? If a person believes their life is being threatened, that person has the right to act in self-defense.
I believe so. I believe a person has the right to defend themselves. If you feel like you're in imminent danger.
I just want to stop you right there. So my question was, do you disagree with that statement?
Oh, no.
Okay. So then here's another question building on that. Would anyone disagree with the statement that a person is justified in the use of deadly force if such force is necessary to prevent imminent great bodily harm or death? So breaking that down, does anyone disagree that you have a right to self-defense even if you're not sure that you're going to be killed? But instead you could be harmed. Does anyone disagree with that? Okay. There's one hand. Yes.
You take it.
Juror number 41.
Take
it. 41, I think it would be situational with that comment, depending on what the situation is.
Okay, so we depend on the facts. Okay, thank you very much, juror number 41. Does anyone here feel that the laws in Wisconsin on self-defense are too lax?
There were no hands.
There are no hands. Okay, just a couple of more questions that were on this topic. Who here, while understanding that we have a Second Amendment right to bear arms, just isn't a big fan of guns in period? Just doesn't like when there's guns involved at all? Okay, so a couple of hands. Juror number 47.
Can you come down and take the mic, please?
And I saw, did I see one more hand? 38. All right, juror number 47. So the question was basically, you know, if you, I mean, you're aware of the Second Amendment, right, and the right to bear arms in the country, but you just very uncomfortable with guns.
Yeah,
Is there any particular reason for that?
just the damage that they do.
Okay. So do you think that it would be a problem for you in this kind of self-defense case to be fair to both sides?
No.
Okay, thank you. Juror number 38.
That was my phone, by the way. Not inside the
Juror
courtroom.
38.
Yeah, so is there some sort of, you know, feeling or issue you have about guns in general?
Through my master's education, I've done some work in peace education. So, although I'm not particularly a pacifist and I understand that people have a right to have guns, I do feel that they are not as regulated as they should be, and a lot of people have them that shouldn't, and they cause a lot of harm.
Okay, so, you know, knowing this is a self-defense case, do you feel like that might affect your ability to be just applying the law just completely rationally, not letting any of your feelings get in the way?
I feel that I would be able to be objective in this case.
All right, thank you. Okay, one final question. Oh, sorry, one more hand, yes. Juror number 46.
Juror 46, I've got a lot of mixed feelings about guns. My dad committed suicide by a gun. I've got mixed feelings. I had a bad day yesterday, brought it up, but I do feel I can be objective. But I just thought I'd let you know.
Okay, well, I do appreciate you sharing that. I'm really sorry about the experience you had with your family member. Now, do you think that, you know, in this case, you're going to see all kinds of evidence, right? You're going to see, you might see some photographs involving the gun in this case, right, the wound and things like that. You're going to hear testimony all week about guns as well. Do you think that that might be making it difficult for you to sit through this trial, through the evidence?
It could be.
Right, so, you know, do you think, you know, there could be a chance that it could make this, you know, kind of like a hardship for you to be through this case, to sit through this case?
I don't know.
Okay. All right, well, thank you. I do appreciate you sharing. All right, so the last question I had was on the topic of immigration attorneys. Now, you heard the person who was killed in this case is an immigration attorney. Has anyone here been close friends or someone in their family is an immigration attorney? Yes, juror number 31. Any other hands? Okay, juror number 31.
Come to the podium.
So the question is basically, so I think you raised your hand about you have a close friend, a family member, somebody that you know very well that's an immigration lawyer. Is that right?
Close friend.
Close friend? Okay. How long have you known your friend?
40 years.
4 years or
40.
40, okay. So that's a very close friend. And did you get a chance to kind of learn about, their job as an immigration lawyer?
A little bit, yes.
Have you ever used the services of an immigration lawyer, like your friend, or you?
No.
All right. Now, do you feel that you have a close friend, 40 years old? In this case, you're going to hear about an immigration lawyer, and immigration lawyers do services for the community and such, just like your friend does. Does your friend practice in this state?
Yes, in New Orleans. He's retired now.
He's retired. Would your friend have known the victim in this case?
I don't know.
Do you think that, being somewhat close to somebody who practiced immigration law might make you more partial towards the prosecution in this case?
No.
Okay. All right, thank you. Has anyone here ever utilized the services of an immigration attorney? Okay, I see one hand. Anyone here ever hired an immigration attorney? Okay, so two hands. Juror number 28, right? And juror number 44. Okay. All right, juror number 28. You've hired an immigration attorney before?
Yes, I have.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about that?
I came to this country 25 years ago as a resident, medical resident, and went through my residency. Then I had to deal with immigration law, and then I became a citizen, so I had to also go the same process.
Okay, so about 25 years ago, you had hired someone to represent you to help you with immigration?
Actually, 20 years or so, but then after that, when I became permanent resident, I had to go through the process of being naturalized and become a citizen. So 2 times, 2 different lawyers.
2 different lawyers.
Yeah.
Were they lawyers that practice in the state?
They were both from New York.
Was your experience overall a positive one?
Nothing negative, nothing positive. It wasn't just relationship.
Okay.
And nothing actually. It was all by email or phone calls, or I never met anyone.
Oh, you actually never met them. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. And I saw one more hand.
I'm juror 44.
Yeah, juror 44. So you've used the services of an immigration attorney. You've hired one before.
I lived in Canada for a while, and the business I worked for, so it was all like a more business, not personal, but it was an immigration attorney who was Canadian who was helping me, or helping my employer get things straight for that.
Okay, and about how many years ago was that?
1993.
Quite a while.
Yeah, it was.
Still looking young. So, was your experience, would you say, overall positive?
Just neutral. It was just what you had to do, business.
Okay, just very transactional, just got to get the job done.
Right.
Okay. So that wouldn't really affect your ability from something from 20-something years ago.
It would not.
All right, thank you. Anybody else who would ever use the services of an immigration attorney? See no hands. All right, then one last question. Is there anyone here that just feels that they couldn't be fair to Mr. Edgecomb for whatever reason, or that they feel like, had the attorney asked this question, this is probably something that we should have known, that Mr. Edgecomb's attorney should have known about me, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to be fair in this case for Mr. Edgecomb. Okay, juror number 41.
I think we know about that enough. We don't.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing all that. I really do appreciate you being so forthright about it. Anybody else just feel like, had we asked this question, they would have learned something important that's not going to be, that's not going to make me fair in this case? Okay. Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We look forward to presenting the case to you.
Thank you, counsel. Ladies and gentlemen, as defense counsel sits down, I'm going to ask you just one question. As you've seen during voir dire yesterday and today, we're using this entire courtroom. It's the largest courtroom in the courthouse. And I brought in slightly more, some additional jurors than I might bring in on the average case. First of all of you have been very forthcoming. To my view, this is a very, very good jury panel. People have been honest and forthcoming. As I said yesterday, when you left, I asked everybody to not watch the news, any news, Channel 6, 4, 58, whatever. I'm confident all of you followed that instruction. Some cases, and this is one of them, and we discussed, both lawyers discussed some of the pre-trial media attention, some that occurred around the time of the incident, 15 to 16 months ago, some that's been in the last couple of weeks. I will tell everybody that when we select the jury, when we seat the 14 of you, and we'll pick the 14 probably in the next 20 minutes to half an hour, we will then, either right before lunch or after lunch, proceed to a different courtroom. In that courtroom, you will see that there will be a camera or two in the courtroom. I will tell you that during voir dire, as we progressed yesterday and today, at the risk of violating many FCC rules and regulations, the camera's been stuck just on me for the last day and a half. Come on, guys, that was a little bit of at least a courtesy chuckle. I mean, come on. Point being, it has not shown any of you, and you've used juror numbers, and both the state and the defense would agree, as do I, that juror anonymity is important. The camera or cameras that will likely be in the room we're going to go to, either right before lunch or right after lunch, will not show any of the jurors at any time. They will show witnesses, they might show me, they might show the lawyers, but at no point in time would any juror member, any of the 14, be on camera at any time. At no time will anybody be identified. But let me ask this. The mere fact that there will be a camera or two in the courtroom for the next few days while this progresses, does that make anyone uncomfortable, or would that make somebody, put them in a situation where you thought you could not be fair and impartial and able to do your job, which is to listen to the evidence, listen to the testimony, review the documents, or if there's photos or evidence that cause a problem for anybody? All right, I'm seeing no hands. Give me 2 minutes. I'm going to talk to the lawyers, and then I will let you know we're progressing. If you need to stand and stretch, you can do that while I stay where you are while I talk to the lawyers. Ladies and gentlemen, I just had a conversation off the record with the attorneys. We're now at the stage of voir dire, which we call jury selection. Now, this entire process has been jury selection, obviously. And first of all, as I said to the lawyers, and as I said a minute ago, I appreciate everybody being here yesterday and today. Everybody has struck me as being very honest, very forthcoming. You've listened to the lawyers' questions. I appreciate that, as I'm sure do both sides. Jury selection, as I always tell juries, is a little bit of a misnomer, because what the lawyers are doing now is part of the process, and they are not allowed to choose jurors. They're not allowed to say, I want juror 35 or I want juror 2, but they're allowed to strike certain jurors. After they strike the jurors that they're allowed, pursuant to the law in Wisconsin, we will have 14 jurors. The way the process works is, after the lawyers do this, which will take 10 minutes, maybe 5, I will read off the names of the 14 jurors that have been chosen for this case. So if I read your name, I'm going to ask you to stand and remain standing. If you're not chosen for this case, and there's going to be lots of you that are not, I'm going to ask you to in a minute, I will let you know, if you're not selected for this case, where you are to go in terms of jury management in the clerk of court's office. After I excuse the majority of you, and we have the remaining 14, I'll have some instructions for the 14 jurors, the 12 plus 2 alternates that will sit on and hear the evidence in this case for the balance of the week. And as I said earlier, probably Monday. We will start with opening statements, most likely right after lunch. I'm going to take a break for lunch. The lawyers and I and all of us need to get situated in the other courtroom, which my bailiffs will show you to either before lunch or after lunch. So after I excuse the majority of you, after reading the 14, I'll have additional instructions for the 14 that have been chosen for this case, that will be the panel for this case, and then we'll go from there. But in advance of reading the 14, again, I appreciate everyone's efforts, your honesty, your forthrightness, and being here yesterday and being patient this morning. So give me a minute or two, and the lawyers a few minutes, and I'll read off the names. My court reporter just corrected me. I'm not going to read the names. I'll read your juror numbers, number 1. And number 2, again, at no point in time yesterday, at no point in time today, and if you're chosen, at no point in time in the next 3 or 4 days, is there going to be any camera on any juror. I promise you. And I'll read the numbers. I misspoke. Conveniently, I have my clerk and my court reporter here, who are like having additional wives that can correct every problem I make, every mistake I make. And while I think there are very, very rare problems, they seem to think I make mistakes pretty much daily.
talk since they're obviously super muted. Yeah, so, I was in Kenosha when all that went down, and started live streaming on my phone, because I had this media company, and I'm like, all right, let's go film this. And then pretty much just had a million questions about what was going on in Kenosha, what really happened, and started digging into that. And that was the primary focus, was more.
All right, the jury for this case is as follows. If I read your number, please stand and remain standing. Juror number 2, juror number 3, juror number 4, juror number 5, juror number 7, juror number 11, juror number 12, juror 18, juror 21, juror 22, juror 24, juror 26, juror 30, and juror 31. All right, the 14 of you are the panel for this case. I'm going to ask that all 14 of you stay exactly where you are, stay standing, please, just for a couple minutes. Everybody else, please follow my bailiffs out. Deputy Brown and one of my other bailiffs will show you out. They'll escort you and take you where you need to go for the rest of the day and potentially additional jury service. Thank you, everybody. All right, all of you can be seated for the moment. It is almost 11:40. We're going to break for lunch. I'm going to excuse you with one of my deputies, maybe 2 of my deputies. My deputy will take you over to the courtroom where we're going to be trying the case over the course of the next 3 or 4 days. When my deputy takes you there, he will have instructions for you as to what time to be back. It's about 11:40, so I'm going to be asked that you're back from lunch around 1 or a few minutes after 1 at the latest. And we'll try to start at 1:15. After lunch, we will start with opening statements from both sides. I will have some preliminary jury instructions at the start of the case. I expect the instructions to be succinct and to the point, and I expect both sides' opening statements will not be that long, and then we will start with testimony, witnesses, evidence this afternoon. Now that the 14 of you are the panel for this case, the jury for this case, it's as important or more important than the instructions I gave you yesterday. Again, you're not to discuss this case. You're not to deliberate on it. That means with a friend, family, relative, neighbor, and you should not discuss with anybody the nature of this matter. I mean, obviously, if you have to tell your employer you're on jury duty, fine, but you don't discuss anything about the case, the allegations, the defendant, the lawyers, me, anything. Again, very, very importantly, please don't do any research in this case. That means on Google, LinkedIn, Facebook, anywhere on your computer, Twitter, whatever, no research of terms or names or allegations or anything related to this case. And finally, as I said earlier, I don't know if there'll be any media today over the lunch hour, but please, again, certainly avoid viewing any of the local TV stations and avoid any coverage. I think there was an article in the paper this morning. You are to avoid that information as well, because as both lawyers said, and as I will emphasize, the evidence in this case, what you need to make your ultimate decision on is based on what's presented to you in court on the record over the course of the next 3 or 4 days. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, I'm seeing everybody nod their head. You guys can follow my bailiff out. He will escort you where you need to be for before lunch, and then after lunch. All right, the jury's been excused. We're going to reassemble about 1 or 1:15 in room 506. I presume the state can or already has drafted the succinct jury instructions for the start of the case. Fine. All right, Madam Clerk, print those. Anything from either side before we break?
No.
All right, so see you at 1:15 in room 506 of the safety building. Thank you. Before we leave, we should make a brief record. There were 3 strikes for cause. We discussed it off the record. Basically, the defense asked for 2, the state asked for 1, and ultimately the lawyers stipulated to the 3 strikes for cause. Correct?
That's correct, John. Sure, yes.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, so anyway, so I spent so much time working on Kenosha and then kind of in the process of because like live streaming, I was using a janky phone, and then I ended up upgrading to a better phone. I never planned on restreaming stuff. I really don't even consider myself a live streamer. I fucking hate live streaming. I can't stand it. I'd rather do the investigative side of things. So yeah, spent hundreds of dollars of my own money, and then viewer donations that came in trying to upgrade our live streaming gear and to provide better live stream quality and essentially pretty much the protests out here stopped. So then the new trendy shit is doing this, restreaming court cases. So money, my own money, and then whatever viewer donations come in, generally spent on open records requests that we're getting whacked with pretty large invoices. So I've not had the funding to upgrade, restreaming shit. I need, I've got a program, but my computer doesn't like it, and streaming quality sucks. That's why we got to do it kind of ghetto like this. So, you know, pretty much I need a brand new computer that has, you know, the capability of handling things like this and screen sharing videos and just, you know, way faster capability. Priced it out. The computer I need is like $2,200, and I just can't afford that. Not with all of the open records requests that get filed and have to get paid for, and minimum, you know, viewer donations. I mean, that's how this company is ran. So we have no sponsors. I have nobody telling me what I can and can't film. So, you know, we do our best over here. This is not really what I focus on. I focus on trying to expose bullshit within our systems. That's a little bit more important to me. But yeah, like I said in the comments, you know, if there's protests surrounding a specific individual, and it's something that I've filmed or kind of followed those protests around, if there is a court case related to it, then, you know, I do my best to try to cover the actual case. There's some articles about a former police officer, Joseph Mensa, that's out in this area. They just did a very unprecedented court hearing called the John Doe Hearing. It's the first time it's ever happened in the state of Wisconsin. The judge found probable cause to charge that officer with murder. They just appointed special prosecutors. They're kind of diving into the case now. So there's a few articles on the website about that, and then the hearings we live streamed like this, so those are up on the channel. You can find that in the playlist section. Obviously this case, the Rittenhouse case, you know, obviously followed that because I was 100 feet away from that fucking kid. And, you know, Kenosha's a big part of what Never.Stop focuses on. So, but yeah, so pretty much, you know, we're going to take Kenosha as far as possible. When I feel that I've exhausted as much information that I think the public needs to be aware about of everything that really happened during the Kenosha shit that went on, you know, then I'll move on to something else. So that's pretty much that. It sounds like obviously they're going to move to a different courtroom. I'm not sure if it's going to be the same link, or if it's going to be a different one, but we'll figure that out, and we'll see what happens. So we'll be back, I don't know, sometime around 1-ish, if we can figure out what courtroom they're going to be in, what that link is to their live stream and all that. So I'm going to get working on that, and I'll see you guys later.